This is Remembering Smallville,
a Smallville rewatch podcast.
I'm Daniel.
I'm Nicole.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Brett.
Okay, let's talk about our midnight snacks. Who likes to snack at midnight, first of all?
Oh, yes.
All day,
Can
every
you
day.
call it a
Same.
snack if it's like 3,000 calories?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's be
If
honest.
it's snack food.
Most midnight snacks are exactly that many
I
calories.
literally just shared a meme with you, actually, Brett, where it shows like an old husk of a person, and it's like me when I don't have my 2,000 calorie midnight snack.
Yes.
And it's so true. Like, what is it about when you stay up late, you start to just get ravenously hungry?
Yes.
Because you ate dinner at 5 or 6, and now it's been 6 hours, and you realized I haven't eaten in so long. When it's daylight,
I'm supposed to be
eat a
sleeping.
lot more.
Yeah, that's true, because if you ate breakfast at like 7 or 8 or 9, then you eat lunch at like noon, and then you eat dinner at 5 or 6. Those are just a few hours apart. That's a good point, Nicole.
So you're starving.
Yes.
If you've been
Yes.
awake and doing stuff all that time.
Well, and now your body wants to sleep. So if you're going to force it to be awake, it needs some energy.
And tryptophan is great for sleep, and you can find that in a lot of foods that are heavy and comfort foods.
Okay, so you just made so much sense. I'm a salty person. I rarely want sweets, okay? Midnight snack, always sweet. And I'm like, probably
Really?
the sugar. Like, I want
Your
to
body's
stay
like,
awake.
yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, so mine is like the cheapest, most disgusting thing, but mine is Oreos and milk. I love Oreos and milk.
But only late at night.
Midnight. Yeah. I mean, I'll eat them anytime, but I crave those the
But
most.
that's the
and chocolate.
That's the go-to, right?
Yeah.
That's the go-to midnight. Because we all can eat anything. But what's your go-to midnight
or cereal.
snack?
Brett said cereal, one
Cereal,
time.
man.
Oh.
Cereal.
Daniel's a 24/7 cereal kind of guy.
So are we. Oh.
Your midnight snack, you get to pick. What's your cereal?
Oh, well, I go through phases of cereal. Mm-hmm. So,
Okay, right now, what you got?
we've got honeycomb right now.
Yeah, that's what we've got going at our house.
Honeycomb.
But is it cereal? Would you pick your midnight snack as
Well,
snack
I
as
do.
cereal?
I do pick midnight snack as cereal a lot, partially because it cools me down a lot. I get cold because we keep our milk as cold as possible
Without it freezing.
Without it freezing, and so I don't sleep well hot. I need to be cold going into bed because I'll heat up and then I'll be too hot to fall asleep. And so if I eat cereal, most of the time it helps me cool down and get cold before. But another favorite, I think, is toast.
Daniel loves cream of wheat and toast.
I do like that.
Those are Bentleys.
Really?
Oh,
yeah, I
yeah.
do love creamy wheat and toast. It's kind of nostalgic for me. But at least toast, like cinnamon sugar toast or toast with jam on it, love that for a good midnight snack. And
Do you
a
like
big tall
cookie
glass
butter
of milk.
on toast?
I've never done that, but that sounds good.
Well, we will introduce you.
What's your go-to, Coley?
I'll just do whatever. Last night it was homemade caramels. I made a double batch last night.
Oh my
of like
gosh.
homemade microwave
Oh, and
caramels.
we were gonna bring it
but
to
we forgot.
give you guys more diabetes.
I'm so
but
glad you didn't. I would have eaten all of them.
they are very good.
So Brett, I would help his diabetes.
And then like last night I also ate a bunch of sugar snap peas at about 1 a.m. in bed on a plate.
Okay.
sugar
yeah.
snap peas with
So I'll-
cheese, a soft cheese.
Yeah, I'll just do whatever.
Do you eat the cheese on the...
Yeah, so I open the peas, the sugar snap peas, and I don't eat the shells. It's my dad's
Okay.
fault. And I put the peas in the little triangle of cheese. And
It's a
I'll
soft cheese.
It's like a soft, low
Like
calorie
a-
cheese.
Yeah, like a skinny cow cheese.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll scoop it out and eat it with my finger and add more until the cheese is gone.
So something
I
like,
call it peas and cheese.
so something growing up with my mom that we would do is we'd take marshmallows and just put them on a fork over our stove.
Ooh, love
really
it.
ghetto, and get just like toasted marshmallows. Everyone else was asleep and we're watching shows, and so we'd toast marshmallows over it, nice toasty marshmallows. Pretty delicious.
I love it.
Well, speaking of toasty and crusty marshmallows, they're all
Well,
toasted
I was
black.
gonna actually ask, would you eat your snack as a last meal?
No.
No. Oh, cereal? I would eat
A last meal?
Okay.
Cereal
no,
might do it, but
you're right.
I'd-
You're right. No.
But the old people in this show didn't have the choice with their last meal. They were suddenly set upon by a man who turned them into dust.
Gross.
Turn them
Brett
into
tried
ashes.
to segue into it, and
Daniel's like, I got a better. Daniel's like, don't use your dumb segue. I got a better one.
All right, dear listeners, this is our double feature episode. We're going to be doing episode 17, Reaper, And then we're going to be doing episode 18, Drone, back to back, all in one episode just for you.
If you don't remember what a double feature is,
It's where we breeze through 2 episodes in one podcast episode because they're fillers and we don't want to spend an hour talking about each one. So about 20 minutes each will do.
Episode 17, Reaper. We see that Clark must stop a kryptonite-infected man who turns the elderly and sick into ashes. And Lex's father's prodding reveals Lex's investigation in Clark and his family.
so let's talk about the A plot first,
Tyler.
which is Tyler. Yep.
And we know his name's Tyler because his mom says Tyler about 96 times.
Yeah, that's true.
Tyler, I need you to kill me, Tyler. Tyler, I love you, Tyler. Tyler, have a great life, Tyler.
We get
Kill
it.
me.
His name
Kill
is
me,
Tyler.
Like, she says it so many times.
If you watch this episode, the very first time you see Tyler, he looks uncannily like Sawyer from Lost. So you Lost fans, just think about that when you watch the very opening of this episode. I totally was like, wait, is that the same actor? There's just something about the way the light hit and like he comes into that first scene. He looks just like it.
So Tyler's mom is like, please kill me. And he's like, okay. He's sad about it. She dies instantly. And it alerts the...
Or does she?
So it alerts the staff, like, oh, someone's blood oxygen is now at 0. Let's rush in. And they're like, you've killed her, security. And then he falls out the window
And dies.
You know how they could have avoided all of this? Moving to Canada post 2020.
Yep, that's an option.
Then she could have said, I want to die, and the healthcare system there would happily oblige.
Yep. So, apart from causing drama with the Canadian viewers, so Tyler is getting his autopsy. Why would you? There's no point. We all know the cause of death. He fell out of a window. But let's do the autopsy anyway. That guy must be real bored.
Well, he
you
seemed to
can tell he
enjoy
is.
that.
It seemed a little too creepy to turn
Yeah.
on that tool.
So he's gonna start his autopsy, and he's fixes his broken wrist and pulls out the meteor rock that's been embedded in. He's about to saw him open to look at his liver for no reason. And Tyler wakes up and touches him, and he turns into dust.
Sorry, what? Can you do that again?
Wow. So this
I did that with my mouth.
this superpower, by the way, is
Awful.
It's overpowered too.
This episode kind of confused me, and I think we'll talk more about it as we get into it.
Yeah, well, they hid the mom's death. They made it sound like she died, and then it's like, oh, well, no, she's alive. That was a little weird the way they did that for me.
Yeah.
It
So
was
then,
silly.
well, he comes back to life, right? And he wears gloves. And I was like,
Yes.
that's normal. He's scared to touch people. But
Right.
then he still chooses to go and touch people he thinks should
She says
die.
later, I thought I got brought back for this purpose. He thinks it's like what he's meant to do now. Even though he doesn't, I don't think he loves it.
Well, yeah, he does look really sad about doing it every time.
Right.
Pretty empathetic, which is, I guess, a point in his favor.
Yeah, so
Although-
he comes back to life
Yes.
and decides that he's going to go to Smallville because that's where his mom is going to be buried, and he is planning a funeral. But I guess he hasn't started those plans yet because he would have learned she's not dead. But anyway,
And he learns really quick that it's his skin that's the problem and wears gloves.
yes. And so I like that the Kents, even though they're people of limited means, they give their extra produce and all their extra flowers that they grow in their wonderful flower emporium to this meals. What is it? Mobile meals.
Yep.
Martha's like, it's just 2 hours, Clark, come help. And he's like, okay, Mom, no
I
worries.
did find it a little out of character for Clark to be so against helping these people and feeling weird about old people. And there's like, it
No.
felt a little weird to me.
Feeling
didn't it?
weird about old people is normal.
Okay, yes, but
for
not
Clark?
from Clark.
No,
So
I think
I actually am with Nicole on this one because it's not that he didn't want to help them. It's that he feels like there's nothing he's doing that is helping them.
Sure.
They're in such a helpless spot that he's like,
But it feels
anything
weird
I do is
after the episode where he worked in the old folks' home.
Yeah.
That's why it to me, because I feel like he's had experience now with old people and he's seen how it makes their day
I
to
wouldn't
visit.
say he's had experience with old people. He talked to Cassandra 3 times.
and he did that for Lana. And this
Yeah,
one,
I know,
And
but-
these
he
are
doesn't
bedridden
really have
people.
grandparents.
But she became his friend.
Right.
and
These
stuff.
are bedridden individuals.
Okay,
I
so
guess. That's a good
let me
point.
chat. about my grandma. She lived on her own till she was probably 94, 93. She just lived in her house and did her own thing. And eventually she took a fall and then she was in a place. She was still kind of on her own. She had to get herself down to the cafeteria area and, wheel herself back up. And so I would go every Tuesday and visit her. We called it Tuesdays with Grandma.
I remember that.
I love being around my grandma, but it's also really hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really doing much. I'm just sitting there, spending time. About an hour was about all I could handle because she can't really hear. She can't really do anything. And, and she got like weaker and weaker. And she's now passed. But like I would cut her fingernails for her and shape them up and do whatever. So she would be like, "Oh, you're here. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so lonely." Like it's just the way it is. It's so sad. Because she would say like, "I just want to be dead. Like I just want to. I don't feel good, but I'm terrified to die." Is things she would say.
Aww.
So like this episode hit home for me. I kind of get where Tyler's coming from because it's like I would do that for my grandma.
Yeah.
Two in a row.
Coley's crying again.
Oh gosh.
Need another teaser for that.
Coley cries
Anyway,
again.
I'll be all right.
Well, I do get it. I don't know what it was. There's just something about the way that scene happened in the very beginning that made me kind of
sat wrong with you.
Yeah, I feel like I get Clark's feelings about it, and I understand that he felt that way, but the way that was done and with the script felt awkward to me and not correct, if that makes sense. The big thing about this plot line is that the lady wanted a white rose, and he said, "I promised to bring you a white rose," and then when he brings it, he takes the opportunity to not only help her pass on, but assist the barking dog.
Which was not great. He kills the dog.
Which...
So unnecessary.
Yeah, that was cold.
So I get him ending Mrs. Sykes' life. I get it. She's like, I can't go on like this.
It is really hard
not
to
like
watch
this.
old people just suffer.
It's so
and suffer
hard.
and
So
suffer.
I totally get it. It's just not super ethical. It just
No.
And so it was a hard thing even for us watching this with Bentley, our youngest. She's 11, and she's watching this, and she's like, I'm trying to decide, is Tyler a bad guy? It's a hard thing it's not like he's trying to hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so it made this episode a different style.
It's a dilemma because I get it.
I like the exploration of morality in that way. Mm-hmm. When morality feels a little obscured by good intentions.
Yes.
That's always a fun thing to explore. And I think that it handles it okay for a filler episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something that I'm sure as you listeners, viewers of Smallville have noticed, the last few episodes have decided to change the tone just a little bit.
Yeah,
and so it's been interesting and refreshing. A couple weeks back, we talked about the Nicodemus flower, and that changed the tone. And then, last week when we're talking about Ryan and being an adoption, it's like
the first episode that pulls your heartstrings really in the
let's change
series.
it this way. And so, this is changing it a different way. This is more philosophical, like, oh, is this a villain? Is it not a villain? Where do we take this? And so, yeah, they're very interesting concept just as we change the tone a little bit in the story.
And so I did have a question here. Did you notice that Tyler disappears like Batman multiple times?
He is like the night.
He's just like suddenly gone and be like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's a very comic thing too.
So moving on with the Tyler storyline, after he dusts Mrs. Sykes and Pepper, which I think is great. Monetize that job because even let's say the person had just died. Easy cremation.
I know.
No muss, no fuss.
Yeah.
He's
less pollutive.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
No need
There's
to
no
spend
decay.
a lot of money.
No need a coffin.
Yep.
I have a lot of opinions on that. I like people spending money on funerals, but I'm not getting into that.
That should be a
Banter for another time.
That should have been our banter this time.
So to keep the general story flowing, and it kind of ties in with Tyler, is Whitney's dad has another heart attack. Eventually, Tyler hears about this and is like, I'll help him and his suffering, and is going to go deal with that. But there's this scene with Tyler where Martha is going to drop off some more vegetables. Tyler's weirdly, was he sleeping in the storage room, hiding in the storage room? And he scares Martha. He touches her vegetables and they wither into dust. And she's like, oh no, Mrs. Sykes. And she connects it immediately. The Meals on Wheels man owner shows up into the room and there's this weird slow-mo for the whole scene.
Did you remember that? It was really weird.
The speed is all
it's
slow
the frame
and weird.
rate of the camera was really off.
Yes, so weird.
I noticed that.
Yeah, it was like very poorly done slow motion. It's like they didn't use a slow motion speed of the camera.
They filmed it normal and then just slowed it down.
Yeah, so it felt really awkward.
It's the scene where this whole thing goes down, and the whole thing is done in this weird speed, and the CGI is awful. And that's
I was going
okay.
to talk about the special effects in this episode.
Terrible.
They were, there was something to be desired of these special effects.
On this A story, what are some things you liked and hated? What are some major things that stuck out to you guys too?
This wasn't my favorite episode. I thought the flow of the writing was really weird. I thought the question of morality was really weird. It was fine though. I wouldn't go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
I didn't like the special effects, but I did like, I don't know what I liked.
Well, the funny thing that's to wrap up the A storyline is Clark tells Tyler, your mom's alive, let's go see her. And so they like sneak into her house while she's asleep. And then Tyler's like, what have I done? I thought this was my mission in life, but my mom's alive, so I guess I'll end myself by touching his hands together. Which, how had he not done that before then?
I know, he's never even accidentally brushed
so
his
he's
own.
never washed his hands.
He's
Do you
never
know what
washed his hands.
I wrote, boom, roasted.
Boom, roasted. So I thought some cool things that happened was Tyler touching Clark's face.
Yes.
So watching it suck the life out of him a little bit.
And that special effect wasn't bad.
No, that was bad.
Because it was just makeup, It was good.
Yeah.
I thought adding to our trauma tracker, Nicole thought of you.
Yes.
Whitney getting his face and getting knocked out by his face on the sink while his dad's about to get killed.
And freaking Lana, why haven't you learned that you should not wander alone at night in
cemetery?
Smallville?
Oh.
In Smallville. Anywhere in Smallville.
Yeah.
Nobody should be wandering alone in Smallville at
Buddy
this point in
system
the story.
from now on.
Like,
That's
after
the first
all
thing we
they've faced.
said. Yeah.
And I thought this was really random. I think it fits more in the A storyline just because it's still Whitney and his dad. Right at the end, Clark and Lex arrange for Whitney to throw passes for the Metropolis Sharks football team
At the Smallville Stadium.
in front of Whitney's dad, just to be like, he got to see me throw passes for the Metropolis Sharks. And you're like, cute, I guess.
I liked it. I loved it, actually.
I just feel like it was like, where did this come in? Like, it wasn't like...
It's like Make-A-Wish for dying people.
yeah.
The setup was poor.
Yes.
But I liked the
That it
execution.
happened.
Yeah.
I think if the setup would have been better, the execution.
I think that's where
Well,
it
they
was
talked about
fine.
it when they were shooting
They
hoops.
talked about it.
They talk about it, and then all of a sudden it happens. There's nothing in between that helps the setup.
There's no time.
Yeah.
I know, there's no time.
And then, Clark gets, and I put this in here, Clark gets a real kiss from Lana on the cheek.
On the cheek.
Yeah,
Yes.
genuine kiss. It was like
She's not under any type of weird kryptonite influence or some Nicodemus flower. She really just kissed him on the cheek.
So to our B storyline, really quick. Lionel has sent Dominic to be the bean counter, he says, to count all the money. Where's it going? What's it going toward? How's Lex spending all his money, his pesos, his rubles? I don't care what you call them. And essentially, Dominic goes to the Kents and is like, Mr. Luther has been spending copious amounts of money researching your family. Can you explain? And Jonathan's like, get out of here. And it causes some tension there. Ultimately, it ends in nothing because Lex talks his way out of it and is like, oh, I just wanted to know about the car crash. Then Lex says, that's not love, that's public relations. In reference to like, you don't care about me at all. You don't care what I'm spending my money on. Ultimately, you just don't want a bad look for you or your company.
Yes.
Yeah, because he never cared before when Lex was doing stuff.
Right, he's like, that
partying and
yeah.
getting all kinds of trouble.
He's like, I spent more money than that on a weekend in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, that wasn't company funds. This is totally different, which is true.
Yeah.
Personal funds spend however you want, but this is business. You can't be cooking the books in business.
Right.
This was very much a nothing beeline, but there were some things I thought about.
Dominic gets stuffed into a trunk. Well,
Poisoned.
after he's drugged by Lex.
Which was so creepy.
Yeah, that
Totally
was a
brings him
dark
back to
side
his
Lex
dad.
thing.
And he's like, if you're going to ask accounting questions, give me a call. And one of the things I thought that came out of this was its never-ending story of the comparison of Luther's versus the Kents. But it literally comes down to Lex has everything money can buy, but Clark has everything money can't.
Yes.
And it's just...
Aw, it's
So
true though.
cute.
That's very profound.
And so that's where Clark getting in an argument with his dad in the episode and not wanting to go fishing, and he realizes it's just about time and being together and it's worth doing.
Yeah, I guess
things
that's
together.
kind of the C plot, isn't it? The fishing trip.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So yeah, there's kind of like three little plots going on. So at the very beginning of the B plot with the accounting issues, when Lex is talking to the guy, to our bean counter friend, he lists all these books off that are the books he grew up with. And I actually kind of want to read those books because some of them are like major classics, like The Art of War. I don't know. Have you ever had a desire to read classic books like that?
No.
Yes, I have.
Good
Yeah.
for you guys.
But anyway, so I thought about that. There's also a point where Clark references something called a Kodak moment. A Kodak is a brand of camera.
Back in the day when there was film.
Yeah, so you'd actually have to buy, sometimes you'd buy those like disposable
cameras?
Kodak
Oh,
cameras, and you'd use that to take pictures. You'd have no idea how they turn out until after you have them rendered.
Well, that whole phrase had to die with the new modern cell phone, because otherwise we'd have about 346 Kodak moments a day.
Yeah.
And we'd all get real sick of that.
Now we call them selfies or reels, right?
Yes.
But that is another thing that has died alongside of like Smile for Candid Camera. Smile, you're on Candid Camera. Those are some good old things from a blast from the past, as it were.
So this episode, my last thoughts.
Song Sparkle by Ruby Horse. No other really thoughts. No other thoughts on
So
that one.
I think we're all in agreement this is a man episode.
This is a man
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
No need to discuss. You all know why. It's in the double feature.
I think this episode has some of the poorest writing so far in the
Yeah.
series.
Shout out to all meteor freaks. We can't help you, but you can help us by following us on social media at Remembering Smallville, and our link is in the description.
So it is time for episode 18 of our double feature, Drone.
In Drone, Smallville High School is having class elections. After one candidate, Paul, is attacked by a swarm of bees in his bathroom at home, Pete nominates Clark to replace him on the ticket. After extreme initial reluctance, Clark embraces the idea when his parents and Lana both support it. Chloe, on the other hand, uses the torch to endorse Paul, who she says is the most qualified and who will be able to serve when he recovers from the attack. Meanwhile, a second candidate is attacked by bees, and Clark realizes that Sasha, another one of his opponents, is behind it. After a confrontation and a couple of instances wherein Clark is able to overcome the bee swarm, the bees turn on Sasha, and Clark has to save her from them. Dun dun dun.
Very good.
So I have a question about this episode. Are you more scared of bees or wasps?
Wasps.
Do you hate one more than the other?
Oh, wasps.
They don't do any
100%.
good. They're garbage.
Yeah, they
Well, because wasps swarm and attack, where bees just, if they're...
Defend.
they
Yeah,
defend.
yes.
They swarm when they defend. Yeah.
And they die after they sting.
So let's
Yeah.
focus on the A story of the election and the bees, and then we'll do the Lex and the journalist in a minute.
What'd you think of this mean girl?
Felice. So do you guys know what the French word for luggage is?
Felice?
Valise with a V.
Valise.
Because that's Chloe's biggest gripe with her is her name it rhymes with a French word for luggage. and then Pete's
Pete
like,
says, glad you're not reaching for a reason to hate her.
Exactly.
Do you know how in the very beginning of the episode, when it opens, we get this terrible CGI bee?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I hated that. And then later we get that CGI face with the bees. But it was like, what are you trying to be Men in Black? It was Men in Black around yet at this point?
Yes.
Yes.
Because it's like 98
Yeah.
or something, right? And so I was like, what is this, Men in Black with bees? So
It was bad.
one of the things we get in this very first bit when they're talking about the political candidates for their class president is that Chloe says, no wonder our politicians suck, in reference to how popularity matters or other things over what their actual platform and the good they can do is. And I just really loved that reference of Chloe and just digging the government because I like that.
Every time.
So
Dear listeners, if you're watching along with us and you want to see something funny, pause your TV at 1 minute 58 and you will see Paul Chan has designed the Superman costume already. It's done.
Yes.
It is done. He has the S, the cape. It's done.
The colors,
It's all done.
everything.
is that just a thing that Goff and Miller were like, let's put that in? You know, it's just kind of how it felt.
It was funny.
Oh, that's great.
And that's all you need to know about Paul Chan, other than he get attacked by a bunch of bees in his bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, over 100, they say. Over 100 bees.
Ouch. If you've never been stung by a bee, I have a little story about being stung, actually.
Oh, so do I.
I was
Continue.
camping in the mountains with my family, and I was, I think, 6 or 7. I was a kid who had eaten something sticky, and I got dirt over my face because it was kind of dusty because it's Utah, it's dry. There was a faucet kind of next to our camping area, and underneath the drain where the faucet was a beehive, and there were black bees there.
Oh.
And my mom was like, you have to wash your face before dinner. And I was like, I don't want to. I'm scared of the bees. They're going to hurt me. And she's like, they're not going to hurt you. Well, this is one of those times when my mom was not right. I was washing my face. A black bee flew up my shorts and stung me on the butt, on my right butt cheek. I couldn't sit for the rest of the trip. It was so awful, and I have hated black bees ever since then. It was a sucky sting. That was the worst one. I've had other stings, but that one was the worst one.
On your butt, too.
Yeah, like
Kimberly.
right where you sit.
Kimberly,
Oh my gosh.
have you ever had a story where you told our children they wouldn't have a problem with a bee?
Well, this isn't the bee story, but it's a bee story. So, Bryn, there was a nest in our mailbox, and she didn't want to go get the mail. And I was like, please, I need you to. And she's like, I'll get stung. And I was like, you've only been stung once in your life, which I've only been stung once in my life. And I was like, it won't happen again. Like, the chances are so small. Yeah, she got stung.
As a person who's never been stung by a bee,
You haven't?
I think people like me who are now in our mid-30s who've never been stung by a bee are secretly afraid we have a giant bee allergy and we will get stung and die.
That's what I tell parents.
One and done. I'm terrified.
When their little kids get stung, I'm like, at least you know now that you're not allergic, right?
Because what if I am?
Yeah.
Probably not, because I don't have any other allergies, but then again, maybe I do. This could be this could be my last episode.
For those who don't live with anxiety, Nicole's entire thing right there is what it's like to be living with anxiety all the time. You think about, I've never been stung by a bee. That means I'm going to die.
So some fun bee stories. I've been stung several times, so it's not about me. My nephew, now you can judge this if you want, that's fine. If you've ever had a young 1 to 2 year old where they're on the floor and they will find things on the floor, even if you've cleaned, you could have a specialist cleaned. He found a little bee that was dead on the floor, and he thought it was some kind of snack and went to eat it, and he totally stung his inner lip by trying to eat
when
it.
it's dead?
Yeah.
Well, because the stinger's still there. It's got all swollen and everything. It was crazy. So
That's like a nightmare to me. Having bugs crawl into my mouth. Ugh. Clark wakes up in the morning, and for once in this show, he doesn't drink orange juice first. You know what he drinks? Milk from a glass bottle. Now, in my world, drinking milk from a glass bottle is like bougie.
Yeah.
But he's in a farm
the
town.
milkman would bring it in glass bottles.
Yeah,
I would
but
say
like,
that. Do they
that
have
sounds-
dairy cows? Are they a dairy cow farm? I don't think so.
They have
know.
cows, but I don't
But
know
those are
about
probably beef cows.
Yeah.
But you do a lot of trade in farm towns and things like that, and
True.
you're going to get raw milk. You're not getting...
All I know is that to me, when I think of milk, I think of it in, cartons. Maybe you might think of it in a cardboard carton. I usually think about it in like those Costco ones that are plastic. But I have had milk from a bottle, like a glass bottle. There's a company called Winder Dairy that would deliver.
That's what we got growing up.
I had a friend who got the glass bottle ones, and there's something about milk coming out of a glass
Ice
container.
cold milk in a glass container. Oh.
But I did think it's funny because we've talked about how they're drinking orange juice all the time. And, well, in this episode, he drinks milk. And
Love it.
I do love how he goes to drink the milk straight from the bottle. And Martha's like,
He could drink that whole thing in one sitting if he's anything like you.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
drink a lot of milk.
Oh,
I
it's
drink
so
out of my
delightful.
carton. So don't ever drink milk at my house.
So anyway, Clark goes to school and we learn that Pete has now put Clark up for election. And he says, Pete Ross, the kingmaker.
Yeah.
He wants to get Clark elected as president. And at first, Clark is like, no, I don't want to. But eventually he comes around to it because his mom and dad are like, well, it doesn't use your gifts. You might as well. It's something you can do.
Yeah, which is a good point. And I think Clark, if he put real thought into it, could have been a great class president.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't have the time. He kind of fell into it. And Chloe came up with this position because there's this part of this story where Chloe, as the editor of The Torch, has to give an editorial that is
An
an
endorsement.
endorsement of a candidate. And she doesn't pick Clark. She picks Paul.
And that caused a little bit of a riff.
I like her position. If every single journalist in our country was like Chloe, we would have a totally different political system. I'm convinced that everything would be completely different if every reporter and every journalist in America were like Chloe. We'd have a completely different
You mean
country.
had a mind of their own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they follow the money. They don't follow integrity. There are those who do, but that's not
But
the
they
popular
get shut
thing.
down real quick, yeah.
And so
And we get the
I
opposite
really like
with
that.
the B story of journalist integrity.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
we'll get to that.
But yeah, that is a good, maybe there's a comparison there. They wanted to show Chloe's journalistic
Integrity.
right?
But yeah, we'll talk about it.
So we get to the point where we find out that these attacks on these students are targeted, right? From
Because Felice got bead in a coma.
Felice got beat in her car.
Yeah, so she's now in
being
a coma.
beat into a coma. Ugh.
That's what I
Principal
put.
Quan
just
is having
bead.
a rough week. He catches a kid in a pool. This girl's got stung by bees. His car exploded a few weeks ago with
He
the
moved to
heat
a small
guy.
town hoping it would be boring.
Wrong small town. There's also a couple funny things. Clark's campaign, Man of Tomorrow, which is fun. But then when he's asked what he stands for, I stand for truth, justice, and other stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Man of Tomorrow is actually a comic book series. It's a Superman comic book series from the 90s.
Oh,
so
yeah.
picking it up here, that's a good call out.
That's what I was trying to say, but my brain was so excited to talk about truth, justice, and other stuff.
Justice and other stuff.
And then Nicole and I had a question about the queen, who turns out to be...
Sasha?
So, Coley, what was our question about Sasha being the queen?
Does she make the bees? Where did the bees come from? Is she laying bee eggs?
Does she call to them?
We do know the answer to this.
Right. I know, but
What?
like at first we were like, if she's the queen, what kind of implication is that?
Yes.
Like, what are the
does
workers
that
doing to
entail?
her? But in the beginning, you hear that Chloe, when the first attack happens, Chloe says, yeah, the EPA is coming because all these bees from all these different hives have left.
Yes.
So we learn that Sasha has this ultimate pressure from these parents that she has to win, and she will do anything, even kill her competition. And she kind of threatens Clark at first and is like, just drop out, which she kind of did to everyone. She told everyone drop out, and then when they didn't, she attacks them with bees. So she attacks Clark with bees at the Talon with Lana when they're working on the speech, because side story C, I guess.
Yeah,
the Talon
this
is
one also has
empty
a plot C.
because the beanery is stealing all their business, which resolves itself within the episode, so it's kind of irrelevant. But Clark stops the bees, but then Sasha shows up to the barn.
Yeah,
and
but how does he stop the bees?
with a liquid nitrogen pipe?
Yeah.
I want a liquid nitrogen line. Is that something that like coffee shops would have?
I
But
don't
it's
know.
it's in the flower shop section of it.
Yeah,
okay.
it's how they keep it refrigerated.
I was say, is it like coolant?
Is it
from,
supposed to be like
a
Freon
refrigerated
or-
room?
Basically how they connected to the fridge and keeping things cool. Like
Right,
if you've ever
because
been
it's like
to
a professional refrigerated room
Yeah,
for the flowers.
for the
Yeah,
flowers,
I
so-
guess there could be very cold cup stuff in the pipes for that. That
Yeah.
could make sense.
Sasha and Clark have a little like tete-a-tete in the barn where she's like scrunches up her face, meaning I got the bees on the way, and they're going to get Martha, and then she like does this awkward. She does this.
I got the bees on the way.
It's true. And the bees come to attack Martha, and she like is the world's worst runawayer.
I know, that was so strange.
Hop
like,
off the
"Let me-
lawnmower because I can run faster
Then the
and-
lawnmower.
But at least when they did slow motion this time, they used the camera that was for slow motion.
Yeah, not,
Yeah.
I mean, even at the
Or
slowest,
the shutter speed, whatever it is that they did
let's say
last
that
week.
tractor can go 20 miles an hour. That's still faster than she's ever going to
Yes.
run. But anyway, so she like almost kind of falls. Clark catches her. They put her in the storm cellar for safety, but the bees go away immediately.
And because the bees were told to go attack Martha and they failed, they're now pissed at the queen.
Yeah,
well,
for
'cause
some
they failed
reason.
twice.
Oh, I guess they
Is
did.
that why?
Because they went after Clark, and it was like
Fail.
Oh,
Well, he
there's
killed a bunch of 'em in
Because
there.
Chloe even calls this out. Bees are only loyal to a certain point.
Yeah.
Eventually they'll turn.
Which is true. A queen that bees no longer feel is doing her job, essentially. They'll turn on her and devour her, and then they'll find a new queen.
Clark goes back to Sasha's campaign headquarters, and the
Which
bees
is this old barn shed.
next to her house, which now the bees have turned. And the bees break through the windows with their feverish bee ways, somehow breaking through glass. And she's like, help, I'm allergic to bees. And so Clark thinks, I know, I'll explode the whole thing.
Because we didn't get a car explosion in like 1.5 episodes, so now we need a
bigger
barn
explosion.
explosion.
Guys, I just have to pause on this bee face.
Terrible.
The bees assemble to make her happy, and they give her a smiley face of her face.
Yep.
Once the bees have turned and she's freaking out that she's going to get stung and be anaphylactic, Clark decides, let's explode the whole thing. So would throwing a screwdriver at a propane tank cause an explosion?
I feel like
Most
no.
likely not.
Because it'd have to spark.
It'd have to spark.
That's just it. Metal hits metal and made a big spark.
Yeah,
as it
because
popped
every
it open.
metal that hits metal sparks. As someone who has made his own flint and steel, it's not that easy.
No.
He's like, I
If
wish.
you're Clark Kent with super strength and speed, you throw it fast enough, you're gonna make it happen.
Yeah. Well, it's like movies and stuff do this all the time. Like they'll use a bullet to shoot, and there are bullets that actually are made as heat rounds that can ignite stuff because of they're made that way. Most bullets aren't. And yes, metal on metal can create sparks.
But how many times would you have to throw that?
I mean, it's
Take 105.
I'm pretty sure Mythbusters went through this way back in the day.
I'm sure.
Which is what my mind turns to. It's a good resolution.
In the end, Paul wins the election because even though he's not there for the rest of the episode, he'll be back in time for the next school year.
So do you think he got a pity vote? Partially?
Well, you had Crazy Attacker. You had Girl in a Coma that was rude to everyone that's no longer that popular because she's not around to be seen. And Clark, who...
Just started campaigning yesterday.
Yeah.
That's true.
In that ending scene with that storyline A, the Talon is going to be up and running because Lana found some health code violations with the beanery.
She played a little dirty for a moment.
Yeah,
for once.
because Lex told her to
Go to the mattresses.
Good Godfather reference.
Twice we get this.
And then Lana's like,
That movie needs to be removed from basic cable.
yeah, she hates Godfather a lot. Okay.
It's a funny thing because in the movie you've got mail. Go watch it if you haven't seen it.
They quote it.
They quote, go to the mattress, and she's like, why does every man always quote The Godfather? And he's like, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday. That's all I know from the movie because of
I watched
You've Got
The
Mail.
Godfather. It was fine. And the second one, I didn't like at all. So
So we're just going to focus on Smallville today.
or Twilight if it comes up.
I didn't think it would on these two.
let's talk about the B story. So we're going to talk about journalist lady, which appears to be an integrity-laden journalist. She is very, 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 very sexy in this episode. She doesn't have the integrities. She sells out in the end. And that's basically the story. She's trying to improve her position as a journalist and improve her name by going after Lex. And she is being paid to do so extra by
Lionel.
Lionel Luthor.
Of course.
So Lionel says, hey, you want a better promotion? Go to a chop story on Lex. So she gets that by being a fake massage therapist, by having a fake broken car. And she wears Lex down with her legs and hands.
Yeah,
face.
she impersonates a Kim, who is a massage therapist, right? She impersonates them and becomes a masseuse, I'm pretty sure, in this case.
But then as she's walking away in that midway scene of her thinking she's done it, she goes, thanks, you were my first. It's disgusting.
I don't know if that's the case.
No.
I wonder if it's her first big break.
It's her first big break story.
I didn't think that.
Because
Could have had
she's
a double meaning.
She's
It could have had a
talking-
double meaning, but
Definitely. I think that's why it was said, is to be a double meaning. She had talked about what she wants to do as a journalist is to take on the biggest, hardest stories of big celebrities and break the truth.
But she
And so-
doesn't.
no, but that's what she's like, so thanks for being my first, because he commits to having the story. Mm-hmm.
I guess my mind's in the gutter from, other things.
Just a heads up. So I didn't know this till I went to massage school. Do not call your massage therapist a masseuse. A masseuse means they are a naughty massage therapist.
A massage therapist is the right term, right?
Yes. So I never correct people because they don't know. But don't call your massage therapist a masseuse.
Very good.
because if you ask, will you be my masseuse, and they don't know that you don't know what that is.
Yep. They will shut you down real fast.
Yeah, and you'll be like, why? I just want a massage.
I just want to rub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just
some
rub me.
So ultimately, Lex kind of gets a one-up on her and offers her a better job. Miss Castle, he
A
offers her.
corner office.
Yeah, so she ends up taking the better deal, and he goes, what are you going to tell my father? And she goes, I'll tell him I got a deal I can't refuse. And then they for sure do it.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100%.
Is she going to be in it for the next little while?
Nope, this is
No.
it.
Okay.
I think.
I don't remember ever seeing her again.
I don't remember
if you do,
seeing
it's
her
going to be
again.
minor.
So here's the thing with this episode. It starts with a bunch of characters we've never met.
And we'll never see him again.
We'll never see them again. They go run for student body president. Doesn't get it for Clark. So unknown people win it. There's an unknown person that shows up in Lex's life. and that leaves his life, this episode takes us absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Maybe Paul Chan is the designer of the Superman suit
Later,
at the end.
Even if not, it happens in our
Because-
Clark
mind.
tracks him down, and like while he's like older, and he's like, "Hey, Paul, remember me? My name's Clark. I was wondering."
This is a spoiler, and
I
it's
really
not.
liked your campaign poster.
Yeah. This is a spoiler, and it's not. The very end of the show, the whole purpose of this show is we end up with Superman in the classic red and blue cape. Mm-hmm. And somebody does design the suit. Maybe we can make it our headcanon that Paul Chan does it.
I love
We'll
that.
see. Everyone keep that in mind.
Because somebody at the very least commissions it for him and then gives it to him. Maybe Paul Chan was the one they used.
Maybe Martha makes it.
Okay, in which case Daniel just got assigned that he decided this episode was super. He can't go back on that. He can't go back on it.
All because of Paul Chan's outfit.
That's so funny.
Not the B-face episode.
He is now officially the Paul Chan supporter. And
There are good things in this episode. You have some good allegory of the comparison between Chloe's journalism and Miss Hardcastle's journalism. Is that what her name is? Hardcastle? Miss Castlewick?
Miss Castle.
Miss Castle's. Lana has a growth moment, I guess, where
She goes to the mattresses.
she goes to the mattresses and she likes it, which might be a bit of foreshadowing.
She goes to war.
To what?
So I think we all agree this is man. It's more like B.
This was neither super nor man. This episode
It's
was
B.
B.
It's just not good.
No,
Cut it. Leave it on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
listen, if there are some redeeming qualities to this episode, it actually is the music.
Ooh.
They play The Middle by Jimmy World.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that one.
Fever for the Flava by Hot Action Cop. And one of my personal favorite groups, the Goo Goo Dolls, singing Here Is Gone. So I'm just going to say, Goo Goo Dolls, that will always win my heart if there's a Goo Goo Dolls song.
Awesome.
I'm biased, but I understand.
Hey, you guys, guess what?
What?
Only 3 episodes left of season 1.
Oh my gosh, really?
Really?
Yep. So we have the next 3 episodes. We are going to have individual recordings for each of them. And in one of those, we will also be bringing in a guest.
Our first guest! Woo!
He is our friend who is also a cop. And so we're going to, in the episode Obscura, we're going to have him join us.
So it'll be 2 weeks for you, listeners.
Yep. Additionally, we would like to know how you feel about the double feature. Comment on it. If you would prefer we actually spend a whole week on these filler episodes talking about them, please donate money to us first, and then we'll do. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
No,
please
but
let us
do
know
that.
if you all want to see us drag that out a little bit. Maybe have slightly shorter episodes. Just let us know. We'll do what the listeners want. But we do like this, so let us know if you like it too. And on that wonderful note, thank you, and let's end. Thank you for remembering Smallville with us. Join us next week when
We meet Evil Matilda.
Chloe gets a fax.
And Pam has cancer.
if you're here, you probably like Smallville. So show Smallville some love and click that like button. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Remembering Smallville so that you can remember it and stop forgetting about all of these wonderful episodes in the beginning where Nell is the freaking worst and Lana is playing games with Clark's heart and Chloe never gets to have the thing that she loves most.